Yeah, federal workers are getting even more anxious and confused. Thousands have already been laid off, and those who still have their jobs are now going to get another email asking them what they did at work last week.
All right, so there's a couple things there. One is the U.S. government is reducing its workforce. This is not the first time that this has happened. Most people that work in the government are not involved with government contracting. So to answer one question, what does this mean for the small business selling to the government? It may not mean much at all. We'll unpack that a little bit from now. But what does it also mean for the federal workers that are getting cut? I used to be one of them, at least as an active duty military acquisitions officer. I'm going to talk a little bit about what options they will have as well if they're leaving federal employment. And then the second part of this is they're talking about Elon Musk's email that he's been sending out to federal offices that ask for 5 things that they did during the week.
Elon Musk says if they don't respond, they'll be fired.
Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that. The executive branch of government, employees working directly for the executive branch, the president has a lot more power as far as firing people. But I can tell you, as somebody who has managed government civilians, and a lot of them, it is much harder to fire a government civilian than simply saying, hey, fire that person, right? And I'm talking about people that have committed crimes or potential crimes on base that we were trying to transition out of their job. Government civilian jobs are typically very secure. We're going to hear coming up that they're actually offering some of the federal employees a stipend to move out of those jobs.
Federal workers bracing for more layoffs as they receive a second wave of emails demanding they list 5 tasks they completed at work last week by Monday night.
Okay, so that in and of itself is not a big deal. I remember putting extremely lengthy reports together every week on what was accomplished by my office to provide, for no other reason than to provide my boss some information on what we accomplished, who's on contract, where are the problem areas, where do we have to refocus, what are the big accomplishments, what are the big challenges. This should be nothing new. And for a government employee, a lot of these government employees have a lot of work on their plates. Shouldn't be a big deal to list 5 things that they did during the week. Now, the problem is, do this or you're going to be fired. That is not the type of work environment I want to be part of.
Elon Musk saying those who fail to respond will be fired.
Yeah, he doesn't have that authority. Now, I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm just saying he isn't a government official, and government agencies have a lot of bureaucracy and red tape and policy, and he doesn't have specific authority in any of those. So they may drive these agencies towards a specific goal of reducing the workforce, but some of this, I think, is empty threat.
Writing on X, the president has made it clear that this is mandatory for the executive branch.
Right, and that's what I was talking about. So the president has some direct authority over the executive branch. It'll be interesting to see how they actually manage to transition people. And I also saw some things on voluntary retirement, amounts you could take to transition. And by the way, that's happened for years and years. I myself have been offered packages when I was active duty military to leave active duty service, and I would take roughly maybe what I would make in a year in order to do that. I did not take that option, but these packages have been out there for a while.
The email doesn't include Musk's threat, only adding to the confusion. It's the latest push from Musk's Department of Government Efficiency to dramatically slash the federal workforce. The Department of Education giving workers a Monday deadline to accept a payment of up to $25,000 to voluntarily resign or retire.
The government is looking to reduce its workforce. As I said, some of these initiatives, like offering money for people to leave early, these have been going on for a long time. Now, how is this going to affect you if you're a small business selling to the government? Well, it could affect you if the government ends up relieving a lot of the government civilians that work in acquisitions, meaning the contracting officers, specialists, program managers, and their support staff. But that is a very, very, very small percentage of the government. So they may see some slowdowns if they remove enough personnel out of acquisition shops, but I think that we still haven't seen the numbers on that. I think it's much harder to eliminate people that are in government civilian positions. I think if you're selling to the government, frankly, you're going to see little to no change in how you sell to the government, possibly some delays if the staff in the organization that you're selling to is affected. But outside of that, I don't see this initiative, meaning the reduction of staff, as being a huge impact. You've probably seen earlier videos of mine. My prediction is that the government spends more on small business contracts this year than last year, even with the spending cuts. So we'll see how that plays out. I also want to address the federal workers, right? The government civilians, even those that are contractors that may be asked to reduce time or potentially pause their contract with the government. If you find yourself in that boat, well, now you may be perfectly suited to go out there and get a job with a company selling to the government. You may be positioned to start your own business. Now, as you know, we help companies start consulting businesses. You can go to govclose.com, check out some of the testimonials from our students. But, if you have a background in government, you can I don't want to say easily, but you can leverage your background in government, even if it had nothing to do with contracting, to help companies sell. And what do I mean by that? Let's say that you worked in the Department of Education, or let's say that you worked as an accountant in the Navy as a government civilian. Well, now you're positioned to know a lot about the Department of Education or the Navy just because you worked there. You also know a little bit maybe about accounting services or whatever it is, whatever job function that you had. There are companies out there that most likely are providing those services, and the government's usually buying those services in the tunes of hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. So now we can combine that with a little expertise on government contracting. And if you watch our channel, you're getting, the gist of how to sell to the government, at least what my philosophy is on that. And of course, you can head over to GovClose if you want some specific training on how to sell to the government and then how to take that and start your own consulting business. This could be the time for you to make a lucrative career move. And I can tell you, if you're doing it right, you should be at least doubling whatever you made working for the government. If you're working for another company, if you're starting a consulting business, if you do that right, you can triple, quadruple what you were doing for the government. And look, these things don't happen overnight. There's no silver bullet to all this, so to speak. There's a learning curve, which we try to expedite in the GovClose certification program. But look, there's plenty of courses out there. You can take a look at our material that's free on YouTube. But I just wanted to present some options out there. So for those that are potentially thinking about leaving their government position, maybe they're going to take a stipend and retire early, or take a stipend and go look for another job. This is a very interesting angle for you to take. How do you get into the government contracting world, either from a business owner's standpoint, from a consultant's standpoint, or working as an account executive or something for one of these other companies? And of course, you've seen we have a lot of individuals that have been placed in companies after going through our certification program. So my main message to everybody is, don't worry. This is not something to worry about. Whenever we see a problem, right? Real estate crashes, real estate market crashes. What does that create? Well, you could say, oh no, my house isn't worth as much. Or you could say, wow, this is a real opportunity for me to get a deal on a house or to make some money in the real estate market. Just like this. And by the way, this isn't crashing. The government is spending a ton of money. They're going to continue spending more money year over year. This is an opportunity. So if you find yourself on the federal side, that's what I would tell you. Look at this as an opportunity to maybe transition, start that business you've always wanted to start. Go get a higher paying job. Some of these account executive jobs, not only are they higher paying, they can be a lot of fun, traveling around, going to conferences, working with big companies, working with small startups, using your government knowledge already and kind of applying that in a consulting atmosphere. Lots of different angles you could take there. Hopefully this was informative for you. If you want to see more of these type of videos, just leave your replies in the comments, and I will see you next time.